Hi guys, today I am back with day 12. This one is a little bit of a longer video because I have two regular 6.5, 8.5 page spreads, and then I have an insert in the middle, so it has taken me a little bit longer for this day. So right now I'm working on the left hand side of the layout, and I am just trimming up this picture slightly so that I can then mount it on a piece of white cardstock so it has a little bit of a border. The picture is not a true 3x4, and I just like to give it a little bit of extra edge so you don't see the pages behind it, so that's what I'm doing. So now I am just mounting these little black and white photos. They kind of look like a photo strip on to the red card here, and this is pictures of a party that my father had. He wanted to have a Frank Sinatra party. Frank Sinatra would have been 100 years old on December 12th. So he threw a big party because he is a humongous fan. So these are pictures of all the guests next to a little cardboard cutout of Frank Sinatra. So I'm just put those on to a pick frame app so that look kind of like a photo strip or what is it? Yeah, photo strip from one of those photo booths. So that's what I did that, and I thought with everybody's colors and different things like that, I thought black and white looked neat, not to mention with Frank Sinatra, it just seems like black and white is an appropriate color of photos to use. So now I'm adding down some washi tape. I have just a little bit of this left over, and it's silver striped washi tape, and I'm just putting that down on either side of the photo strips to anchor down the little phrases that I'm putting in. And I can't quite remember the words on the phrases, but you'll be able to see them when we get to the close-ups photos at the end. So I'm just going through these strips of word phrases to figure out which ones I want to use, and I believe I used 2 strips on this page on the bottom. And then I'm going to add a little bit more embellishments. That one was a little bit too long. I took over too much of that layout, so I wanted to get something a little bit shorter, and I think that one says memories. So that is on that card, and then I am trying to decide what else I want to put on this side of the layout, and I think I'm going to work on that top right picture next. And I'm going to end up adding a little jingle bell and I think a red star to the bottom right hand corner. So I'm just going through my sticker sheets and things like that, trying to find out what I want to put there. And you can see I'm thinking because I'm tapping my finger. Sorry, I guess I could have edited this out. I apologize. Oh, actually, I'm going to skip over to this card here. I'm going to end up putting some phrase stickers on this. I wanted to write Frank Sinatra or Frankie on here, but it was just too long with the font that I had. So instead, I'm just going to pick a couple phrases to put on top of this holographic 3x4 star card. And this one's going to say cheers and jingle, or cheer and jingle, I'm sorry. So I'm just trimming off that other colors on there, and that card is going to be done. And then I'm going to actually move on to the other card. So here I'm going to find a jingle bell in my die cut pack and then a star sticker. So I'm going to adhere that down here in just a second. And I have a post-it note there because the person that was in the picture didn't want his picture I didn't get permission to put him up. So that's why the post-it note's there. So you can't quite see the embellishment cluster that I'm putting, but there's a little star, and then that is going to be it, I believe, for this side of the layout. Next I'm going to be working on the insert. Oh, no, actually, I am going to add some of these stamped snowflakes that I stamped onto vellum and I heat embossed with my silver embossing powder. I'm just going to glue those down. I thought it needed a little bit more, and I think this gives it a good touch. So I'm just going to glue that down and then trim off any extra that lay off the edge of the photo or of the page. So it's just going to be on that right-hand side. All right, so I'm going to show you some close-ups of that. And then I'll be moving on to the insert card. So you can kind of see there is that one cluster. And sorry, my finger was in the way, but I need to focus. Oh, it says cheers. That's what that other word phrase strip says. So this is another one of those cards that came in the Santa Claus and Company or Claus and Company pack, and it's just a big flag, and it already had punched holes on the left hand side, so it was perfect. And I just had more photo strips that I am going to glue down here on this page, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue them down kind of a little bit off skew. I didn't want them to be exactly straight. I thought they looked a little bit nicer. I want them to kind of look like they just fell on the page, and I'm going to fill in some of the blank spaces with a stamp. It's going to be a star stamp. I'm going to try to use this banner. It's just not going to quite fit. It's going to cover up too many people's faces and things like that in the pictures. So I'm going to end up stamping around the open spaces with a star stamp, and then I'm going to heat emboss it with some silver embossing powder, and you're going to see me doing that here in a second. And I did do quite a bit of editing in this video because it was quite long, but I did try to keep some parts in too, so you can see my process and kind of what I thought about and what I wanted to do and where it ended up going. And I try to cut out the pieces that seem to be more irrelevant. So you're going to just see me fiddle with this for a little bit before I get to that star stamp here in just a second. And this star stamp is going to, like I said, go around the page. I'm going to do that, stamp it in Versamark ink, and then emboss it with my silver embossing powder. And so there you go. And then I'm going to fast forward you guys through, and you'll see what the end product is, and you'll be able to see the close-ups here in a second too. So there are the stars all embossed, and I use an Ellie Edwards stamp for that. And now I'm just going through my sticker sheet and trying to figure out what else I can put on this. It looked a little plain. I want to do a little bit more. So I am going to put down some of this red star washi tape just to kind of anchor down the bottom right, so I can add some embellishments down there. And I use this washi tape a lot just so that to keep things from floating around the page. I think that kind of gives you a shelf or something to anchor it down, so it ends up looking a lot better. So here I'm going to use one of these phrase stamps, and these are a little wider than I like, so I'm just trimming them down. And it says Holly Jolly Christmas because it was a party and I thought that would be good for this party. So I'm just going to glue that down on the bottom left, and then I'm going to add one of these brads or faux brads. They don't actually have the little prongs on them, and I love them. They're just sticky on the back, and you don't have to poke any holes. And especially where, like on this card, where the back of it I'm going to actually use, I don't have to poke a hole through my page and then ruin the other side, or try to figure out some clever way to hide the prongs of the brad or cut the brad prongs off. So I really like these little faux brads. So I added another little phrase to the top left using those silver phrase stickers. And I'm looking through these overlays for the pictures just to see if there's anything else I want to use, but I'm going to, I think, not do anything. Yep. And that is pretty much it for this card, I believe. And then I'm going to flip it over and work on the other side. So this is going to be a little bit of a process too. I really wanted to use this joy card because I thought it was cute, and I liked how the joy kind of looked holographic. It's printed, it doesn't have that shiny holographic look, but it looks like it's chunky glitter on there. But I'm going to decide that just isn't going to work well for this layout, and I really wanted to somehow get on this page that this was a Sinatra party. So I'm going to change my mind and not use a joy card, and I'm just going to try to find some ways to anchor down this photo. And I tried some strips, but it just didn't look right. So what I ended up doing is I'm going to take the strips, and I'm actually going to trim them with a fishtail on the end, and I think that looks a lot better since the banner that they're sitting on, that bigger banner, is a fishtail, and I like how that looks better. So I'm going to use two different pieces of paper. I'm going to use this star paper, and I'm going to use some green paper. But first I thought I needed to mount the photo, and I'm just going to use this horizontal or diagonal stripe red and cream color paper. I really love the stripe paper, especially using it as a border or a background or a mat for the photo. I just really like how it looks around the edge of the photo a lot. So I tend to use these as matting elements quite often. So you can't really see it too much there, but when I mount it on top of the other pieces of paper, I think it's going to look a little bit better. So now I'm just going through some of my embellishments, still trying to figure out kind of what I want to do. I haven't set my mind on the fishtail banner or the fishtail shelves yet, but here I go. I'm going to trim that out. I'm going to use, like I said, that star paper, and then the back of the star paper is some green and cream polka dots. And so I'm going to glue that down, and then I'm going to have a little left over on the right hand side, so I'm going to trim it off. And because it's such a small piece, I don't have a lot to work with, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim that small little piece in half, and I'm going to use a little strip of it on the right and then a little strip of it on the left. The left side is going to have the little fishtail cut out, and it's going to be behind the photo, so you're not even going to be able to tell that I cut it in the middle and that there's no green stripe in the middle. So here I'm just kind of using my photo to try to line it up, but it's not going to work because then of course it's too small. So I'm just going to kind of wing it here in a second. So I'm going to glue the photo down and then add the green fishtail at the other side right here. And I think that ends up turning out pretty cute. So I was pretty happy that I had that little extra piece of green, and it brings green from the other parts of the layout over to this banner as well. So now I'm going to spell out Frank Sinatra, and I'm going to spell Frank in the green block letters or the tile letter stickers, and then Sinatra in these black font. So you're going to see me start doing this, and I'll fast forward so you don't have to watch me place all the stickers, but that's what it's going to end up looking like in a second. So there, I'm just going to finish putting down the word Sinatra. And then at the bottom, I am going to write the word 100 years old, or no, 100-year birthday, sorry, or 100th birthday, sorry about that. And what I did was I wrote it in pencil first and then wrote over it with my Sharpie marker, and then I'm just erasing the pencil lines, and that way if I messed up or didn't fit, it wouldn't ruin my whole page. Especially on these pieces where I know I don't have any extra left over, I sometimes use this kind of technique so that I don't ruin anything. And usually if I use a black marker, it will ruin it. If I use a pencil, I never have any problems. So it just seems to work that way. So now I'm working on the final page of this day, and it's going to be the right hand page. It's going to be 4 3x4 cards, and I'm using just some smaller photos and one larger 3x4 photo, and my December 12th photo or card there in the bottom left. So I'm just going to trim up this photo of my daughter a little bit so that I can mount it on this white cardstock. Again, I just think it gives it a nice finished edge. So I'm going to add that there. Next, I am going to put a stamp on that card. This is a Christmas Day stamp set by Allie Edwards. And I believe the phrase is Christmas Wish. I'm going to stamp it down there on the top right card, and I'm going to heat emboss it with my silver embossing powder. So after I figure out what else I'm going to do, I'm going to end up settling on that phrase only. I think I was trying to figure out some other things that I could maybe put on, but I ended up just going with the phrase. So I'm going to stamp that down using my Versamark. And like I said, that silver embossing powder, and that card will be good. And now I need to find something to mount that photo on. I didn't like how it was just sitting on the little label up there, so I'm going to add it to this green paper. And I just think that gives it some nice separation between the photo and the little 3x4 card. So that's what I'm doing there, and I'm just going to trim it out with my scissors. And then I'm going to glue it down, and then I'm going to put a little bit of journaling on that label so that I can kind of talk about what's going on with my daughter there. And she is just going through a magazine trying to find some things that she might want for Christmas. So I'm going to add a little bit of journaling about that. Next, I'm going to work on the top left card, I believe. I'm going to add a circle sticker that has a little arrow on it. It's got a wood grain look to it, so I'm going to add that there. And then I'm going to add another phrase sticker below it that's in green. And I thought it was a little bit too low, but then it didn't come up because it was really stuck down, so I just decided to leave it there. And I'm going to add that phrase sticker right below that arrow. And the phrase says all spruced up because my daughter was all dressed up in a fancy dress ready to go to that party. I'm going to add that heart there on that card as well. I'm just going to emboss it with my silver embossing powder. And there is a close-up of what that looks like when it's all done. It's not focusing all that well, but you can kind of see how that looks. And I'm going to glue it right there on the layout using my Scotch Quick Dry adhesive. And there, it's going to stick right there. I'm going to tweak it just a little bit, and there is where it's going to stay. And next I'm going to work on that bottom right hand card with the weather. It was 70 degrees that day, which is crazy for December. It's never that warm, but it was kind of cloudy and gloomy outside, but it was still nice and warm. My daughter in the morning was just playing on the iPad, so I'm just journaling a little bit more about the day and how everything was, and I'm going to outline or underline that journaling here on the card. And what else am I going to do? Oh yeah, I'm going to try to add something else to this December 12th card. I thought it looked a little plain. So I'm kind of looking through my stuff and trying to figure out what else I could do. And I'm going to end up taking this little circle sticker, cutting it in half, and putting the other half on the top of that weather card. And then I'm going to top these cards off with some of my silver sequins that I have in my stash. Of course, I'm going to struggle trying to open this little container, but it finally opens, and I'm just going to use my Scotch Quick Dry on this. Normally I would use glue dots, but I was being lazy and I had the Scotch Quick Dry out, so I'm just using it. And on the pocket pages, hopefully it will stay well enough and they don't pop off. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to finish putting these on, and then I'm going to show you some close-ups of the layout. Of this particular layout, and then I'm going to have some still pictures at the end. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, leave them below. I love hearing from you guys, and I can't wait to talk to you next time. Bye bye.